Hey, what's up everyone? Today we're getting a first look at the Lumix G100. The G100 is Panasonic's entry into the vlogging camera market. Over the past year or so, we've seen the vlogging camera become very popular with tons of other brands such as Canon, Nikon, Sony. Now we got the G100 with us right now, and I'm super excited to test it out and see how it stacks up to the competition. So the Panasonic G100 offers you a 20 megapixel Micro Four Thirds sensor. It also has no low pass filter on it, and it is going to offer a interchangeable lens system. So if you already use Panasonic's Micro Four Thirds cameras and have some lenses saved up, you're gonna be able to use those with this camera as well. The G100 comes with a 12 to 32 millimeter lens. That's gonna be a 3.5 to 5.6 aperture and has a 37 millimeter filter thread on the front. Now, we recommend getting a 52 millimeter filter and actually using a step down range to go down to a 37 filter size. Now, in terms of video specs, we're gonna be able to shoot 4K at 24 and 30 frames per second, and 1080 at 24 frames, 30 frames, and at 60 frames per second. Now this is going to have a great autofocusing system. Panasonic has really optimized this camera for facial tracking, and we're gonna put it through the paces when we test it out here in a second. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this camera is really going to be geared towards mobile content creators. Now, let's say YouTube or Instagram, if I'm one of those creators. One big thing that this camera has, similar to our S1H, is going to be different aspect ratios, but also different frame guides. So in the camera, you can actually set a frame guide. I can put it down to a 1:1. So if I'm shooting, facing myself, and let's say a little too much is going on in the full frame, I can actually mask out the areas that I'm not using and just focus on the 1:1. Now, another cool feature that this camera offers, if I'm gonna be shooting vertical video as such, what the camera's gonna do, it's gonna tag that inside the metadata of the file that I'm sending over, and it's gonna flip that in my editing software on my phone. All right, now let's talk about the audio. The G100 is going to use Ozo technology made by Nokia. Now what that's doing is that's going to use facial and eye tracking to map out where the audio is coming from. We have 4 other features. We have the back audio, which is going to pick up anything from behind the camera. So something for narrative would be great use for that feature. We actually have the front mic, so anything in front of the camera, the audio is going to be picked up. We have surround, which is just going to be standard audio picking up from every direction. And then we have automatic, so it's going to be surround picking up audio from anywhere unless it picks up a face, and then it's going to go to the facial tracking. Now for filming, the camera is going to offer standard color profiles, and it's also going to offer Vlog Lite, which is exactly what we saw inside of the GH5. With mobile content creators in mind, the G100 is going to offer a one-touch transfer feature when paired with the Lumix Sync app. It's going to be able to transfer videos up to 1080p and also transfer raw photos. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna start shooting some test footage. We're here in east side of Austin here at Revival Coffee. So we're gonna walk around and see what this camera can do. And for the audio, right now I'm going to be using the tracking mode for all the video unless I specify when we do a test here in a second. But for right now I am in the tracking mode. Okay, so I am going to be shooting in 4K at 100 megabits per second. For the tracking, I did have a car just pull up, so that's also going to be a good test. And as I mentioned earlier, or maybe I haven't mentioned it, I'm going to be shooting in a aperture priority mode because where we're walking right now, the sun's almost right above us. So I'm constantly going to be in shade, out of shade. So for me not to have to mess with, the exposure too much or have it on auto ISO, I just put an aperture priority, and hopefully the camera's going to do a job of compensating for that. Something I do want to touch on right now is the stabilization. So it's going to have an electronic stabilization, and when you pair it with the lens that has OIS, I personally feel that it's doing a pretty good job of keeping the whole image stabilized. Another thing that I just want to make a quick comment about is the brightness of our LCD screen. I don't know the exact nits or how bright it is, but it is a very sunny day out today. I'm wearing my glasses and I can still see everything perfectly on the side of this. So I'm really happy with the LCD screen and how I can see every single thing on there with little to no glare. Okay, so now we're going to start testing some of the audio. Up until now, we have been using the tracking mode, featured in this camera. So what we're going to do now is we're going to test the other modes. This is the automatic mode. So right now it should be in a surround setting until it picks up a face. The face I'm going to be using is going to be Todd White. Todd, can you start?
Yo, what's up? This is Todd speaking here, talking about this new G100.
All right, so that is the automatic mode. Now I'm going to be testing out the surround mode. Now what the surround mode is going to do is it's going to be pretty standard on a lot of cameras, and it's just going to be getting audio from everywhere. So right now I'm walking by a crowd of people, so we're going to be able to see how it's picking up the audio there. Got some car movement as well, passing up a car that's actually idling right now. So this is it in the surround mode. Now I'm testing the audio in the front mode. Now what that's doing is that's covering anything in front of the camera. It's not going to be tracking me or my face, but anything in front of the camera, it's going to be picking up that audio. So this is how it sounds in the front mode. So what I'm doing is I didn't change any of my aspect ratio, so it's still on a 16:9. What I did to the camera is it is inverted right now. So hopefully when we send this video over to our post-editing software or to our phone, it's going to tag it in the metadata, and the video should actually show in a 9:16 aspect ratio. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the G100 is going to offer V-Log Lite. Now that is going to be the same exact V-Log that they offered inside our GH5. That's going to give us more dynamic range, and it's going to make the colors out of the camera look really flat, but once graded, they are going to, stand out and pop and, give us a little bit more dynamic range. And what a better way to test this with, a real long walkway and then this beautiful purple wall right behind me. All right, now that we got all the testing out of the way, I do want to talk on two features right before we get into our final thoughts. So we do have the slow and quick mode. Now that's going to allow you to get 120 frames per second processed in camera. And then we have the ability to do stop motion and time lapse inside the camera. Now, what did I think overall about this camera? I was really excited with the weight of it right off the bat. It's only 419 grams compared to our GH5 that's going to give us 1,045 grams. So it was real lightweight, carrying it, in the selfie orientation. My shoulder and my arm didn't get too tired. So I was really happy to see them fit a micro four thirds size sensor in this small compact body. Another feature that really wowed me was going to be the autofocusing. I think it's all fair to say that Panasonic hasn't necessarily been known for their outstanding autofocusing features and tracking, but I do feel like they're, turning that around, especially with the G100. Autofocusing and tracking, especially for the facial recognition, was very snappy, and I was really happy with that. Audio was another thing that I have not seen in any camera whatsoever. I haven't seen them use audio mapping whatsoever. So I'm really excited to put this in the editing software and see how that actually turned out. Now let's talk about pricing and availability for the G100. So this camera will be available at the end of July, and it's going to run $749 with the grip or $699 without the grip. Now that pricing is very similar to a lot of other vlogging cameras that are out there, kind of like our Sony ZV-1. If you haven't checked out that video, click the link up top and it'll take you to that. So pricing, I think, is overall really competitive, especially considering that we have a micro four third size sensor and it's an interchangeable lens camera. So let me know what you guys think, if there's anything that you're excited to shoot with this camera, if you can see yourself picking up one. Other than that, remember to like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video.